Welcome back to The Different Forehead. I keep a note of every video idea I get on a little list on my phone. And I would say since probably September 2023, I've had a little point on that list that just says Declan Rice. Every week I look at the ideas as I come to script them, and I always skip that one. And it's because I look at it and I think, why? Why now? He's going to be good again next week and the week after and the week after, so pick another idea. It's not like some trend I need to catch, is it? Oh, what if Declan Rice isn't very good this week? But that performance against West Ham, his former club, a performance where he got the highest score a midfielder has received in the Premier League this season from Who Scored, if you believe in that sort of stuff, leaves me with no choice. I sat down today and I thought, I've got to do it. So I want to talk Rice, but I want to take a bit of a different angle on it. You all know Declan Rice is good at football. You don't need me to tell you that. Rice is good. Yeah, groundbreaking analysis. Cheers, mate. But what I think is often missed out is the magnitude of this deal, how rare it is for something of this scale to go so well, and that the manager predicted it exactly. I wish I remember who said it, but someone once said, if you want to find out who really knows what they're talking about in any space, just remember what's said before events unfold. If there's someone in politics who can predict election results, or some tech insider correctly tells you where the next breakthrough in AI is coming from, that person likely has their finger on the pulse and is worth listening to in that space in future. Translated to football, that's people, pundits or coaches, who can tell you what's going to happen on the pitch before it happens. Declan signed for us on the 15th of July 2023, and 2 days later, Mikel sat down for an interview about what he hoped to get from him. He used a number of key descriptors in that interview and was quite bullish in his predictions. He described him as a lighthouse, someone who will light up his teammates to make them better. He said Rice will bring the team to a different dimension, with physical qualities that the team has been missing, quote, for a while. He name-checked his aura, his leadership, and his winning hunger. And he talks about the way he spoke and his passion for the game. Mikel used the phrases, he will, and he's going to. He was not pulling any punches. This wasn't, oh, I hope he works out, glad the club got it over the line. This is, he's going to work out. And he was right. It's easy to sit here in February 2024 and think what Mikel predicted was obvious, but I think that's a little short-sighted for a few reasons. Firstly, while I might agree that Rice was as sure a thing as you can possibly be in these types of deals, there is always risk in every transfer. You could sign prime Lionel Messi, there is a risk. And I think when we're judging football deals in hindsight, we tend to forget the conditions that were actually surrounding the decision as it was made. We forget, essentially, that they didn't have access to the information that we do now. An example of this is the Willian case. Stick with me. We judge how poorly it went, maybe fairly, rather than the decision-making in summer 2020, which actually had some merit to it, considering the fact he was free and his numbers looked decent. Rice, at that fee especially, in July 2023, having never played at a big club, was a risk to some degree, no matter how you spin it. So we have to credit the club, Mikel and Edu, for taking that risk. And secondly, look at the precedent for these types of deals. Looking at the list of other players acquired for similar money to Rice moving to other Premier League clubs, please tell me which players on this list translated what they were showing at their previous club perfectly and arguably better to their new club within the first 6 to 12 months. Grealish? Caicedo? Anthony? So with those two things in mind, even if you still think it was the most obvious thing in the world, Mikel would have been well within his rights to at least be a little bit cautious about some kind of adaptation period, considering the risk and the precedent. But instead, Mikel sat there 2 days after the signing and not only predicted that Rice would take us up a level, he also told us specifically how he would change the team. Going back to the quotes, he has upped our physical level, unquestionably, increasing our tackles and interceptions per game and providing a dominance in second ball collection I've not seen at Arsenal in a long time. He has absolutely improved those around him, helping to take Saliba and Gabriel to the next level and becoming an integral part of one of the meanest defences in Europe. And I also think he's part of the picture that's taking Ødegaard and Jorginho at times to new heights too. He's very quickly translated the aura he transmitted in a West Ham shirt to an Arsenal one, fronting up to the media time and time again, and we all feel the depth he's added to us in multiple positions at 6, 8 and centre-back. And we see the winning hunger he's added with the clutch moments he's been a part of against Luton and Manchester United. None of this, as many will say now, was guaranteed or straightforward. Rice has been a lighthouse for us. It's a perfect description. Reliable, dependable, and lifting others up. Everything Mikel said has happened. To call that all before it happens, to put your head on the block like that, to chase the player for months on end, knowing the next step for this team is reliant on him, that takes proper foresight. And that is what the kids call ball knowledge. But not only has Rice been everything Mikel said he would be, he's been more. Again, I don't want to sit here and say, Rice is good, you know that. but Rice has displayed qualities that I didn't even know he had. Probably from my own ignorance, but still. For one, the pick out of Declan's perfect set-piece deliveries was something I certainly didn't see coming, and Mikel recently confirmed it was something they saw in him before signing him. Twice now over recent games, I've caught myself saying out loud, why is Declan Rice on corners? And then it's in the back of the net. It's the perfect example of leave it to the experts, which we could all, especially me, take heed of. Secondly, possibly because he's in a more attack-minded team, I've been pleasantly surprised by his goal contributions too, from, largely, a number 6 position. Rice is on 8 goals and assists just in the league so far this season. Thomas Partey's best ever league contribution is 3 in 21-22 and 22-23. Thirdly is around just how good he is on the ball. If I listened to rival fans in the summer, I was told Rice was just a tackle and interception merchant who couldn't progress the ball or pass to save his life. But at one point in January, Declan was the most progressive passer in Europe, and now according to FBref, sits 2 passes behind Rodri at the top of the progressive passes attempted numbers in the league. Sack him, I reckon. But finally, it's this. I don't think Declan's intelligence to learn and adapt to the system as quickly as he has done has been picked up on enough and praised properly. Probably partly because it's hard to read and understand without only looking at him, which understandably mainstream pundits don't have the time to do, and partly because the transition has been so smooth. People say he's never played in a positional play system before. Great video from Tifo here if you don't know what that is, but the principles of positional play are pretty widely used now, so it's not hugely about that, I don't think. I think it's more about understanding familiar situations in a different way. To demonstrate it, I just want to pick up on a few situations from recent games, and it relates to emptying the midfield. In an interview with Rio Ferdinand at the beginning of the season, Rice spoke about what he was learning from Mikel, and he mentioned simply standing still. Naturally, for West Ham, Rice spent a lot of the time picking up the ball in the first phase, driving on it, winning tackles, headers, being everywhere. Hero ball, essentially. Whereas I think he's really adapted and matured to a new way of playing 6 in this Arsenal team in the last 6 or so months. I remember seeing it in the first few games for us, specifically against United in pre-season, where he would drop in between the centre-backs to support them a lot more than he does now. Completely understandable and what he was used to. Safety first. But actually it would often cause us more harm than good as he emptied the midfield and underloaded it, often meaning we had to go back or sideways and there was no entry pass. Now Rice is much more trusting, I think. I think he's developed the relationship with Saliba and Gabriel, but he's also developed a much better sense of when to remain high and when to drop. In this situation again, maybe Rice wants to drop in to support the man on the ball, but instead he remains high and trusts that he's holding his position so Ward-Prowse can't step up. That means Bowen remains isolated, the other players don't step up, and eventually Arsenal play out. Another situation here against Liverpool. 6 months ago, I think Rice might drop in here. Instead, he holds his position, the Liverpool player steps onto Raya, and he becomes the outball, all by simply standing still. When you drop, you may feel like you're helping, but you're not always. Sometimes you even see him with his arms out, almost like he's reminding himself to stay still and hold his position. And I think his newfound sense of when to stay and drop is making it a lot easier for us to play through presses, as we've seen against West Ham and Liverpool in recent times. Without emptying the midfield, Rice can own it. And this newfound sense is really beginning to shine. I thought he'd be a leader. I thought he'd carry well. I thought his tackles and interceptions would improve us. But did I expect this impact? His set pieces, his goal contributions, his clutch moments, his improvements to others, his improvements to himself, how he settled in, fronted up to the media? Absolutely not. But someone did. An incredible amount of credit has to go to the club for getting such a big decision right. And the lack of noise around the price tag and the deal, the space I'm trying to fill now, ironically tells you everything you need to know. But perhaps even more credit needs to go to the man himself, a titan of a player who has dealt with the expectation and delivered week in, week out so far, dropping a 10 out of 10 at the London Stadium, while getting booed, by the way. This is all ignoring his best quality, in my view, as a ball winner that I highlighted when we signed him in this video, calling it his superpower. But even that's something that's taken me aback with its quality at times. That tackle against McAllister in the Liverpool game, I mean, who does that? And what about his ridiculous availability, second only to Saliba for minutes played in the league this season? In football, we always want more. But do we really appreciate what we have with Declan Rice? If the media were on at Arsenal about him, would we appreciate him more? Do we really understand how rare it is that a signing of this magnitude goes so right so far? Do we really understand how uncommon it is for someone to be able to predict his exact impact 2 days after he sees him train for the first time? Do we really see what this man gives us when so much of his game is so simple yet beautifully effective? Do we see the consistency? Do we realise, without sounding like I'm going to burst into song, how lucky we are? Don't be like me. Don't wait to give him his flowers, because he deserves them every single game. Occasionally, I think he could break the lines a little bit sooner. If you like The Different Knock, you can support us on Patreon monthly, or you can buy us a coffee.